Clara, I need you to meet someone, Neil said, his voice a mix of guilt and defiance. I froze, my hand halfway to my mouth with a forkful of salad. The family dinner I'd spent hours preparing suddenly felt like a setup. Neil's eyes darted nervously between me and the blonde woman standing beside him. She wasn't a colleague. I knew that instantly. This is Lena, Neil continued, his arms snaking around her waist. She's my girlfriend. The fork clattered to my plate. Silence descended on the dining room like a heavy curtain. I looked around at the shocked faces of our family, my in-laws, Neil's siblings, even our baby daughter in her high chair. All eyes were on me, waiting for my reaction. My name is Clara, and this is how my husband of 5 years decided to blow up our marriage. Your girlfriend? I repeated, my voice surprisingly steady. And you thought a family dinner was the appropriate time to introduce her? Neil had the decency to look uncomfortable. I thought it would be easier this way, to get it all out in the open. Vivian, Neil's mother, cleared her throat. Now, Clara, dear, let's not make a scene. I'm sure Neil has his reasons. I turned to her, incredulous. Reasons? For cheating on his wife and the mother of his child. Well, Vivian sniffed, if you'd paid more attention to your appearance and your marriage instead of your career, maybe this wouldn't have happened. The room erupted into chaos. Neil's father, Robert, started shouting at Vivian. Neil's sister burst into tears. And through it all, Lena stood there, a small smile playing on her lips. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Neil, I said, my voice cutting through the noise, I want you and your girlfriend out of this house in the next 5 minutes. When you return, I'll be gone. Clara, wait. Neil started, but I held up my hand. No, you don't get to speak right now. You've said enough. I turned to the rest of the family. I'm sorry you all had to witness this. Truly, I am. But I won't stand here and be humiliated any further. I walked over to the high chair and lifted my daughter into my arms. She snuggled against me, oblivious to the drama unfolding around her. As I headed for the stairs, I heard Vivian's voice behind me. Neil, darling, don't worry. Clara will come around. She can't possibly raise a child on her own. I paused on the bottom step, turning back to face the room. Watch me, I said, my voice steel. And Lena, I hope you know what you're getting into, because this family, it's a minefield. As I climbed the stairs, my daughter's warm weight against my chest, I felt a strange mix of anger and relief. The life I thought I had was over. But maybe, just maybe, something better was waiting on the other side of this betrayal. The doorbell chimed, startling me from my daze. I'd been staring at the same spot on my childhood bedroom wall for hours, my daughter Lily asleep in the portable crib beside me. I trudged downstairs, expecting another well-meaning neighbor with a casserole and pity in their eyes. Instead, I found Ruth, Neil's estranged mother, standing on the porch. Clara, dear, she said, her voice soft. May I come in? I hesitated, then nodded, stepping aside. Ruth had always been kind to me, but her absence from our lives, a result of some long-standing feud with Vivian, made her appearance now feel strange. I heard what happened, Ruth said as we sat in the living room. I'm so sorry, Clara. Neil's behavior. It's unforgivable. I swallowed hard. Thank you. But why are you here, Ruth? You and Neil haven't spoken in years. Ruth's eyes filled with tears. Because I failed him. And in doing so, I've failed you and that precious granddaughter of mine. I don't understand, I said, leaning forward. Ruth took a deep breath. It's Vivian. She's always had Neil wrapped around her finger, manipulating him, making him dependent on her approval. I should have fought harder to protect him from her influence. The pieces started falling into place. Neil's constant need for validation, his inability to stand up to his mother, even when she criticized me. But that doesn't excuse what he did, I said, anger rising in my chest. No, it doesn't, Ruth agreed. But I want to help you, Clara. You and Lily. It's the least I can do to make amends for my part in all this. I studied Ruth's face, seeing genuine remorse and determination. What did you have in mind? First, practical support. I know you'll need help with Lily while you're working. I'd like to offer my services as a grandmother and babysitter. I nodded slowly. The idea of having reliable childcare without judgment was appealing. And second, Ruth continued, I want to help you fight. Vivian will try to paint you as the villain to protect Neil and her own reputation. We can't let that happen. A spark of something, hope, maybe, or the beginnings of a plan, ignited in my chest. You'd go against your own son? Ruth's expression hardened. I love Neil, but what he's done is wrong. And enabling him further will only hurt everyone in the long run, including him. I felt tears prick at my eyes, overwhelmed by this unexpected alliance. Thank you, Ruth. I don't know what to say. She reached out and squeezed my hand. Say you'll let me help. Say we'll show Neil and Vivian that their actions have consequences. At that moment, Lily's cry echoed from upstairs. I stood, feeling a new sense of purpose. I need to check on her, I said. But Ruth? I think this is the beginning of something. Something that might just save us all. As I climbed the stairs to comfort my daughter, I felt a shift in the air. The fog of betrayal and hurt was lifting, replaced by determination. With Ruth by my side, I wasn't just a wronged wife anymore. I was a force to be reckoned with. And Neil, Vivian, and that woman Lena? They had no idea what was coming. The coffee shop buzzed with morning chatter, but I barely noticed. My eyes were glued to the laptop screen, scrolling through page after page of damning information about Lena Brooks. Holy shit, Maggie whispered beside me. Clara, this woman is a professional homewrecker. I nodded grimly. 3 marriages destroyed in the last 5 years. Always the same pattern. She targets successful men, plays the innocent, and then leaves a trail of broken families in her wake. Maggie, my childhood friend and now unexpected ally in this mess, leaned closer. How did you even find all this? Ruth, I said, a hint of pride in my voice. Turns out Neil's estranged mother has some serious investigative skills. And connections. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Ruth. Found something big. Meet me at the house ASAP. I closed the laptop, my heart racing. I've got to go. Ruth's got more. Maggie grabbed my arm. Clara, wait. Are you sure you want to go down this road? Exposing Lena might feel good now, but what? I snapped, then immediately softened. I'm sorry, Mags. I need to know the truth. For Lily's sake, if nothing else. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. Okay, just be careful, all right? And call me later. 20 minutes later, I burst through my childhood home's front door. Ruth was pacing the living room, a thick folder in her hands. What did you find? I asked, breathless. Ruth's face was grim. Lena Brooks isn't her real name. It's Lauren Becker. And she's wanted in 2 states for fraud and embezzlement. The room spun. I sank onto the couch, trying to process this bombshell. Does Neil know? I doubt it, Ruth said, sitting beside me. She's very good at covering her tracks. But Clara, there's more. She pulled out a photo from the folder. It showed Lena, Lauren, with her arm around a smiling older woman. This is Vivian, Ruth explained. Taken 3 months ago at a charity gala. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. They knew each other before Neil. I whispered. This whole thing, it was a setup? Ruth nodded, her eyes filled with a mix of anger and sadness. I think Vivian hired her to break up your marriage. She never thought you were good enough for Neil. Rage boiled in my chest, threatening to overflow. But beneath it, a cold determination took root. We need to tell Neil, I said, standing up. He needs to know what kind of woman his mother really is. Are you sure? Ruth asked, concern etched on her face. This could destroy what's left of your family. I thought of Lily, sleeping peacefully upstairs, blissfully unaware of the storm raging around her. This family was destroyed the moment Neil chose Lena over us, I said. But maybe by exposing the truth, we can build something new. Something honest. Ruth stood, squeezing my hand. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the battle ahead. Then let's do this. It's time Neil, Vivian, and Lauren faced the consequences of their actions. As I dialed Neil's number, I felt a strange mix of dread and anticipation. The old Clara might have shied away from confrontation, might have let herself be manipulated and pushed aside. But not anymore. This new Clara was a force to be reckoned with, and heaven help anyone who stood in her way. The restaurant buzzed with quiet conversation, but the tension at our table could have cut glass. Neil sat across from me, his face a mix of confusion and growing horror as I laid out the evidence before him. "This can't be true," he muttered, staring at the photos and documents. "Lena, Lauren, whatever her name is. She wouldn't." "She would, and she did," I said, my voice steady. "3 times before you, Neil. And that's not even touching on the fraud charges." His eyes snapped up to meet mine. "Fraud?" I nodded grimly. 2 states are looking for her. Real name's Lauren Becker. Neil's face crumpled, and for a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy. Then I remembered the humiliation, the betrayal, and steeled myself. "There's more," I said, sliding over the photo of Lena and Vivian. "Your mother knew her before you did. This whole thing was a setup, Neil." He stared at the photo, his hands shaking. "No, Mom wouldn't." "She would," came a voice from behind us. We both turned to see Vivian standing there, her usual poise cracking around the edges. "Mom," Neil's voice was small, almost childlike. "What have you done?" Vivian sank into a chair, suddenly looking every one of her years. "I thought I was protecting you," she whispered. "Clara was so focused on her career, on the baby. I was afraid you'd be left behind." Anger flared in my chest. "So, you hired a con artist to seduce your son? To break up our family?" "I didn't know who she really was," Vivian protested. "I met her at a charity event. Thought she'd be perfect for Neil if things didn't work out with you. I never meant for it to go this far." Neil stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "You had no right," he hissed. "Either of you. To manipulate me, to lie. That's rich, coming from you," I snapped. "You're the one who brought your girlfriend to a family dinner." He flinched as if I'd slapped him. "I know. God, Clara, I'm so sorry. I never meant." "Save it." I cut him off. "I'm not here for apologies. I'm here because you need to know the truth. About Lena, about your mother, about all of it." Vivian reached for Neil's hand, but he jerked away. "Neil, please." "Don't," he said, his voice cold. "I can't even look at you right now." I stood, gathering my things. "I'll leave you two to sort this out."
"But Neil?"
"You need to decide what kind of man, what kind of father you want to be. Because Lily deserves better than all of this." As I turned to leave, Vivian called out, "Clara, wait."
I'm sorry."
"Truly, what can I do to make this right?" I paused, considering. "Help me expose Lena for who she really is. To everyone." Vivian nodded, a spark of her old determination returning. "Consider it done." Neil looked between us, bewildered. "What are you planning?" I met his gaze steadily. "Justice, Neil. And maybe, if we're lucky, a fresh start for all of us." As I walked out of the restaurant, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The truth was out, painful as it was. Now came the hard part, rebuilding from the ashes of what we'd lost. But for the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. Whatever came next, I was ready to face it head-on. The country club ballroom hummed with anticipation. Lena, resplendent in a designer gown, worked the room, her charm on full display. Little did she know, her carefully constructed world was about to come crashing down. I stood near the entrance, my heart racing. Vivian appeared at my side, her face set with determination. "Are you ready for this?" she asked. I nodded, steeling myself. "Let's end this charade." We made our way through the crowd, Vivian leading us directly to Lena. As we approached, I saw Neil across the room, his eyes widening in recognition and alarm. "Lauren," I said loudly, causing heads to turn. "Or, do you prefer Lena?" Lena's smile faltered for a moment before regaining its brilliance. Clara, darling, I didn't expect to see you here. I'm sure you didn't, Vivian chimed in, her voice dripping with disdain. Just like you didn't expect us to uncover your real identity, Lauren Becker. The room fell silent, all eyes on our confrontation. Lena's facade cracked, fear flashing in her eyes. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered. Oh, I think you do, I said, pulling out a folder. Fraud charges in 2 states. A history of seducing married men and destroying families. It's all here, Lauren. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Neil pushed his way towards us, his face a mask of confusion and betrayal. Is this true? He demanded, looking between Lena and me. Lena's eyes darted around, searching for an escape. Neil, baby, they're lying. You know me. Do we? Vivian interjected. Because I hired you to break up Neil's marriage, but I had no idea about your criminal past. The admission hit Neil like a physical blow. He staggered back, shock written across his face. Lena's demeanor changed in an instant, her sweet facade melting away to reveal cold calculation. You can't prove anything, she hissed. Actually, we can, I said, nodding to the back of the room where 2 police officers had just entered. The authorities in California and Arizona are very interested in speaking with you. As the officers approached, Lena's composure crumbled entirely. She lunged at me, nails bared, but Vivian stepped between us, shielding me from the attack. It's over, Lauren, Vivian said firmly. Face the consequences of your actions. The officers handcuffed Lena, reading her rights as they led her away. The room erupted in shocked conversations, people pulling out phones to capture the moment. I turned to Neil, who stood frozen, his world visibly shattering around him. I'm sorry it had to be this way, I said softly. But you deserve to know the truth. He nodded numbly, unable to meet my eyes. Vivian placed a hand on his shoulder, but he shrugged it off, walking away without a word. As the commotion settled, I felt a strange mix of emotions, relief, vindication, but also a deep sadness for what had been lost. Vivian turned to me, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. Thank you, Clara, she said, for giving me the chance to make things right. I nodded, realizing that this moment marked not just an ending, but potentially a new beginning for all of us. As I left the ballroom, head held high, I felt a sense of empowerment I hadn't experienced in months. The road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in a long while, I felt ready to face whatever came next. The park bench was cold beneath me, matching the chill in the air. I watched Lily toddle across the playground, her laughter a stark contrast to the heaviness in my heart. Neil sat beside me, his presence both familiar and foreign. She's getting so big, he said softly, his eyes never leaving our daughter. I nodded, unsure how to bridge the chasm between us. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind. Lena's arrest, the media frenzy, the whispers and stares wherever I went. Through it all, Neil had kept his distance, drowning in his own shame and regret. Clara, he started, finally turning to face me. I know I have no right to ask this, but is there any chance you could ever forgive me? The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of our shared history and shattered dreams. I took a deep breath, searching for the right words. I don't know, Neil, I said honestly. What you did, it broke something in me, in us. I'm not sure it can be fixed. He nodded, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. I understand. I want you to know how sorry I am. For everything. For letting my mother manipulate me. For being weak. For hurting you and Lily. As he spoke, I felt a shift inside me. The anger that had fueled me for so long began to ebb, replaced by a profound sadness for what we'd lost. I'm sorry too, I found myself saying. Not for what you did, but for the pain we're both in now. For the family we could have been. Neil reached out hesitantly, his hand hovering near mine. Is there any hope for us? Any chance we could try again? I pulled my hand away gently, shaking my head. I don't think so, Neil. Too much has happened. But, he asked, a glimmer of hope in his voice. But I think I can forgive you. I said, surprising myself with the truth of it. Not for your sake, but for mine. And for Lily's. She deserves parents who can at least be civil to each other. Relief washed over Neil's face, followed quickly by determination. I'll do whatever it takes, Clara. To be a good father. To make amends. Just tell me what you need. As I watched Lily play, oblivious to the adult drama unfolding around her, I realized something profound. Forgiveness wasn't about erasing the past or pretending it didn't hurt. It was about choosing to move forward, unburdened by bitterness. I need us to focus on Lily, I said firmly. To be the best co-parents we can be.
Can you do that?
Neil nodded eagerly. Absolutely. Whatever it takes. As we sat there, watching our daughter play, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead would be challenging, full of awkward moments and difficult conversations. But for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. Forgiveness, I realized, wasn't about Neil's redemption. It was about my own peace of mind, my own ability to heal and move forward. As Lily ran towards us, arms outstretched and face beaming, I knew I had made the right choice. For her, for myself, and for the future we would build together. Not as a couple, but as parents united in love for their child. The mediator's office felt sterile and impersonal, a fitting backdrop for the task at hand. Neil sat across from me, his posture tense as we hammered out the details of our co-parenting agreement. The past few months had been a roller coaster of emotions, but today was about Lily's future. I think we've covered the major points, the mediator said, shuffling her papers. Shared custody, alternating holidays, and joint decision-making on major issues. Is there anything else you'd like to address? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I needed to say. Yes, there is. I want to make it clear that while we're co-parents, we're not friends. Our relationship is about Lily, nothing more. Neil's face fell, but he nodded. I understand. I'll respect your boundaries, Clara. As we signed the agreement, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. This was the final nail in the coffin of our marriage, but also the first step towards a new, healthier dynamic. Leaving the office, we walked silently to the parking lot. Just as we were about to part ways, Neil spoke up. Clara, I know I have no right to ask, but are you happy? The question caught me off guard. I paused, really considering it for the first time in months. I'm getting there, I said honestly. It's not easy, but I'm finding my way. He smiled, a hint of the man I'd once loved shining through. I'm glad. You deserve to be happy, Clara. Both of you do. As I watched him drive away, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't expected. The anger and bitterness that had consumed me for so long were fading, replaced by a quiet determination to build a good life for myself and Lily. That evening, as I tucked Lily into bed, I marveled at how resilient children can be. Despite the upheaval in our lives, she remained a beacon of joy and innocence. Mommy, she mumbled sleepily. Is Daddy coming home? My heart clenched, but I kept my voice steady.
No, sweetheart.
Daddy has his own home now, but he loves you very much and you'll see him lots. She nodded, accepting this new reality with a simplicity I envied. As I kissed her goodnight, I realized that my daughter's strength had become my own. Later, I sat on the porch, sipping tea and reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. The betrayal, the pain, the fight to reclaim my dignity, it had all shaped me into someone stronger than I'd ever imagined I could be. My phone buzzed with a text from Maggie. Proud of you, girl. Drinks tomorrow to celebrate your new chapter? I smiled, typing back a quick absolutely. As I looked out at the quiet street, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to face it head-on. In that moment, I realized that this wasn't just about surviving Neil's betrayal or Alina's deception. It was about thriving in spite of it all. I had reclaimed my power, set boundaries, and was forging a new path, not as a victim, but as a woman in control of her own destiny. As the stars twinkled overhead, I made a silent promise to myself and to Lily. We would build a life filled with love, laughter, and strength. And no matter what challenges came our way, We would face them together, unbreakable. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Lena Brooks, formerly known as Lauren Becker, stood before the judge. I sat in the back, my heart pounding as I watched justice unfold. Lauren Becker, you have been found guilty of multiple counts of fraud and identity theft, the judge intoned. You are hereby sentenced to 5 years in state prison. As the gavel fell, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Lena's face crumpled, her carefully crafted facade finally shattering. Our eyes met briefly as she was led away, and I saw something I never expected, a flicker of remorse. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, hungry for a statement. I took a deep breath, stepping forward. Today, justice was served, I said, my voice steady. But this isn't about revenge. It's about accountability and moving forward. I hope Ms. Becker finds a way to turn her life around. As the crowd dispersed, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Vivian, her eyes brimming with tears. Clara, I don't know how to thank you, she said. Your strength through all of this, it's inspired me to make amends. With Neil, with Ruth, with everyone I've hurt. I squeezed her hand, realizing that forgiveness had given me more power than anger ever could. It's never too late to start over, Vivian. That evening, I hosted a small gathering at my new apartment. Maggie, Ruth, and even Neil were there, all of us united in closing this chapter of our lives. As we sat around the living room, Lily playing contentedly at our feet, I looked at the faces of those who had supported me through the darkest time of my life. I want to thank you all, I said, my voice thick with emotion, for standing by me, for helping me find my strength. I couldn't have done this without you. Neil spoke up, his voice hesitant. Clara, I know I don't deserve it, but thank you for giving me the chance to be a father to Lily, and for showing me what real strength looks like. I nodded, acknowledging the long road we'd traveled. We're not perfect, Neil, but we're trying. That's what matters. As the night wore on, laughter and conversation filled the room. I stepped out onto the balcony, taking a moment to breathe in the cool night air. Maggie joined me, handing me a glass of wine. You did it, girl, she said, clinking her glass against mine. You not only survived, you thrived. I smiled, looking out at the city lights. You know, Mags, for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about the future, whatever it holds. As we rejoined the others, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The past year had been a crucible, testing me in ways I never imagined. But I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever. Lily toddled over to me, arms raised. As I scooped her up, I made a silent promise. We would face whatever life threw at us with courage and grace. The pain of betrayal had forged me into someone new, a woman who knew her worth, who could forgive without forgetting, and who was ready to write her own story. As I looked around at the faces of my chosen family, I realized that this wasn't an ending at all. It was a beginning, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms.